Welcome to another deep dive. You've sent over some really fascinating material for us to go over today, articles and notes about AI, robotics, and cryptocurrency. It really does feel like a glimpse into the future, doesn't it? I mean, we've got market chaos in crypto, massive investments happening in AI, and robots are starting to show up everywhere you look, it seems. And of course, with all of this come those underlying questions about where it's all going to lead us.
Yeah, it certainly does feel like we're standing at a crossroads. All of these fields, they're not really operating in isolation anymore, are they?
Huh.
It's fascinating to me, at least, how these areas are starting to converge and influence each other.
Yeah.
Really creates ripple effects across the entire tech landscape.
Definitely. Before we dive too deep into all the details, though, I'm curious, is there anything in this whole collection of material we're looking at that really jumped out at you? Any aspect of this future in particular you especially curious to unpack?
It was a crypto crash that really grabbed my attention right off the bat. It's not just the volatility of the market itself, but the trigger for this downturn is what's really interesting. Trump reigniting the trade war, by slapping tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. It feels a bit like we're going back in time a few years, but the stakes are so much higher now with how closely tied the global economy is to cryptocurrency.
It's a huge reminder of how global events can rock the crypto market. And the numbers from this crash are pretty shocking when you look at them. $2.2 billion in crypto liquidations, Bitcoin down to a 3-week low, and even Ethereum, which tends to be a little more stable than Bitcoin, took a 24% hit.
Ouch. Makes you wonder, is this risk-off mode where investors flee to assets that seem safe really the main thing driving this? Or is there something deeper about the role of crypto in a global trade war that we're just starting to understand?
Especially when you think about those arguments that Bitcoin will actually benefit in the long run. This idea that it will become kind of digital gold, a safe haven asset when things are uncertain geopolitically and economically.
It's been an idea floating around for a while now, but, you know, this situation with the trade war really puts it to the test. If faith in traditional systems starts to weaken, will people turn to Bitcoin as an alternative? Or will the inherent volatility of cryptocurrency scare investors away? Some analysts are predicting we'll see a further dip, maybe down to $70,000, before we see any significant upward movement for Bitcoin. And then you have Standard Chartered, they're targeting $10,000 for Ethereum by the end of the year.
Yeah.
But that prediction hinges on DeFi and NFTs continuing to grow, and those could be affected by this downturn.
So much uncertainty, but I guess that's just the nature of the crypto world, right?
Okay, well, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about these enormous investments being made in AI. OpenAI appears to be at the center of it all. OpenAI is definitely one of the leaders in the AI space right now. Their approach is interesting. They're focusing on artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
So not just narrow applications of AI. And that approach is definitely attracting a lot of attention and money, especially from SoftBank.
Oh, yeah. A possible $25 billion investment from SoftBank. If they go through with that, they would become OpenAI's largest financial backer. A major gamble on the future of AI as OpenAI sees it.
Exactly. And I think it really suggests that OpenAI's vision of AI that can learn and reason like humans is gaining traction.
Yeah.
People are starting to see this as a potential game changer. It's not about creating tools that can do specific tasks. It's about developing systems that can actually think for themselves and can solve difficult problems alongside us.
And their new tool, Deep Research, seems to really embody that vision. It's meant to basically supercharge research, assisted by AI, by analyzing tons and tons of data, finding the patterns hidden there, and then generating insights from all of that. Almost like having a research partner who is AI, helping us understand complex topics in ways we couldn't manage on our own.
It's a powerful example of how AI is evolving past simple automation. Now it's moving towards much more sophisticated collaboration with us humans. Tools like Deep Research, they're not about replacing human researchers. They're about enhancing our abilities, allowing us to make connections and discoveries we might have missed otherwise.
It's interesting how SoftBank is essentially investing in both the brains and the body of this technological revolution we're witnessing. Besides their potential investment in OpenAI, there's also talk of them buying a $4 billion stake in Skilled AI, and that's a robotics startup.
Right, Skilled AI. They're all about developing robots that can interact with humans in more natural ways. So, robots that can actually work alongside us in places like factories, hospitals, and even our homes. And that raises some really interesting questions about what those future interactions between us and robots will be like. What kind of world are we building with this technology?
Yeah, it really does seem like we're heading towards a future where AI and robotics are just a normal part of everyday life, changing how we work, how we live, how we interact with the world around us. It's pretty exciting stuff, but it also raises some pretty big questions about, the ethical side of it all that we need to address.
Oh, absolutely. And a perfect example of that is this whole situation surrounding DeepSeek, the AI company in China.
Hmm.
They've been accused of stealing data from Microsoft and OpenAI, no less,
Yeah.
which really just highlights the fact that we're missing clear rules when it comes to data use and security in the AI world.
And it's not just a theoretical problem either, is it? DeepSeek is being hit with a cyber attack right now, and they've had to stop accepting new signups because of it. Really drives home how high the stakes are here. Data is what AI runs on. Whoever controls that data has a huge amount of power.
This whole thing could end up setting a precedent for how AI development and competition will play out globally. And, it makes you think about how we can ensure fairness and ethical behavior when it's so hard to say who owns data and who should have access to it.
It's interesting to contrast that situation with what's happening in the EU. They've got this new AI Act, and it looks like they're trying to set some ethical guidelines for AI development across Europe. It's almost like they're trying to get ahead of the curve, establish rules before things get too out of control.
The EU AI Act is definitely a big deal. It tackles issues like data privacy, transparency, and who is ultimately accountable, a real attempt to create a framework for developing AI responsibly. But it remains to be seen whether it will really be able to handle all of the complexities around data ownership and international competition.
It's not just governments wrestling with these ethical issues either. Even the Vatican has gotten involved. They just released their own set of guidelines for using AI in warfare and healthcare. Pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, the Vatican's opinion definitely carries weight, and those guidelines they've put out could actually shape AI policy worldwide, particularly in countries with large Catholic populations. It really goes to show that AI ethics aren't just about algorithms and data. They touch on core human values and beliefs.
It seems like everyone is grappling with the moral implications of AI these days. Governments, religious institutions, tech companies. Makes you wonder if this is just the beginning of a much larger conversation about AI's place in our future. A conversation that involves all of society.
It does feel like we're at the very beginning of a brand new era. And what matters most now is that this conversation happens out in the open. Everyone has to be involved, not just experts and policymakers, but the public too. After all, it's all of us who will be affected by this technology.
Absolutely. And speaking of how we'll be affected, you can't ignore the rapid progress happening in robotics. It's not just about, you know, those cute little robots we see in viral videos online anymore. Amazon, for example, has just deployed 5 new warehouse robots. We're talking bipedal robots and systems for managing inventory that use AI.
Amazon is a great example of how robotics is changing the workplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, increased efficiency is a huge plus, but you have to worry about what will happen to workers as these robots become more advanced. What happens to all those warehouse workers as the robots get better and better at their jobs?
That's a good question, and it's a question that applies to more than just warehouses. 1X Technologies just bought Kind Humanoid. They develop robots for use in the home. It seems like robots in our houses are going from science fiction to reality pretty fast.
This is a big step forward in the development of robots that can blend into our lives seamlessly. Think about it. Robots that help out with chores, keep us company, or even care for the elderly and people with disabilities.
I mean, it's definitely intriguing, but it also makes you think about the potential downsides. Could this affect human connection? Will we become too dependent on technology for our basic needs? One of the articles we're looking at today mentioned using robots in nursing homes to try to help with employee retention and patient care. It makes you wonder, can robots really provide the kind of human touch that's so important in taking care of people?
It's a complicated issue for sure. Yeah, robots can help with certain tasks, things like lifting patients or giving out medications. But a lot of caregiving requires empathy, compassion, real human connection. The challenge is finding the right way to use robots to support human care without letting them replace it completely.
It seems like anytime you try to use robots, you're going to run into benefits and challenges. Take the security robots from Nightscope, for example. You see those popping up in public spaces more and more these days, and they're AI-powered.
Those robots, they have cameras and all kinds of sensors on them. And it does make you worry about privacy and surveillance. How much data are they gathering, and who is looking at that data? We need to establish clear rules and regulations to protect people's privacy and prevent misuse of this data.
It feels a little like we're standing at the top of a slippery slope. The idea is to improve security, but you have to be concerned about misuse and the possibility of losing privacy. Makes you think about what we're really giving up as we allow these technologies to become a part of our lives.
And that kind of critical thinking is exactly what we all need to be doing as we experience this technological revolution. It's not about rejecting technology altogether. It's about understanding the implications, the good and the bad, and then making choices about how we want technology to shape our world.
Wow, it feels like we've just skimmed the surface of all of this. We've gone from the craziness of the crypto market to the rise of AI and all of these robots popping up everywhere. And it's clear these technologies are bringing up some big questions that we as a society need to answer.
What really stands out to me is that we're not just talking about some new tech here, are we? This is a fundamental shift in how we live our lives, how we work, how we interact with the whole world. It's about what kind of future we're making for ourselves and what we value most.
Yeah. Earlier, we were talking about the contrast between all the excitement around investments in AI and then all the concern about data theft and ethical questions. It feels like there's this inherent tension there, doesn't it? The potential for AI to really benefit humanity, but also the potential for it to be misused.
That tension is really at the heart of this whole discussion. AI is a tool, a very powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It can help us solve huge problems, but it can also make existing inequalities even worse or even create new ones. It all comes down to who has control of this technology and what their values are.
It seems like the EU AI Act and those guidelines from the Vatican are both attempts to address some of those concerns, to try to set some ethical boundaries, but it feels like those are just first steps.
Yeah, regulation is important, but it can only do so much. We need a culture of ethical AI development to grow within the tech industry itself. Companies, researchers, developers, they all need to make things like fairness, transparency, and accountability top priorities right from the start.
So it's not just about writing some rules down on paper, it's about actually changing how people think about AI and making sure that the people building it have a strong moral compass.
Exactly. We can't focus only on the technical aspects of AI. We need to be thinking about the bigger picture, the social implications, the human implications. We need everyone at the table to make this work. Tech people, ethicists, policymakers, the public. That's the only way to make sure that AI is working for everyone and not just a select few.
And we can't forget about all those concerns about people losing their jobs. It seems like every time there's some big leap forward in AI or robotics, more jobs are on the chopping block. And it's not just blue-collar jobs anymore either. AI is making its way into fields like law, medicine, even the arts.
Automation has always been a part of progress, right? But AI and robotics have the potential to disrupt the workforce unlike anything we've ever seen. It's not just that jobs will vanish, it's that the very idea of work is changing. And we need to be prepared for that. We need to create opportunities for people in a world where AI can do more and more.
It's a huge challenge, but it also presents a chance to rethink our relationship with work as a whole. Maybe this is our chance to build a society where work is less about just getting a paycheck and more about people pursuing their passions, contributing to their communities, and finding fulfillment in ways that go beyond the traditional 9 to 5.
It's a great vision, and to get there, we need to change our thinking. It's not enough to just retrain people for new jobs. We have to reimagine what work means in a world where AI is everywhere. We have to foster creativity, adaptability, and the ability to learn new things throughout our lives. Those are the skills that will be essential in this new world.
So much to think about when we look at what the future might hold. We've talked about some pretty complicated stuff today. The merging of AI, robotics, and cryptocurrency, the ethical issues that come with it, how it will change the way we work, and even the need to redefine what work itself means. A lot to digest, but I hope this deep dive has given you some new ideas and insights to consider.
The future is not set in stone. It's something we build through the choices we make. By having these conversations, by questioning everything, and by listening to different points of view, we can help to create a future that works for everyone.
And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with one last thought. What from our discussion today really stuck with you? What hopes or concerns does it bring up for you? And how do you see yourself navigating this rapidly changing world?
Those are great questions to keep in mind as you continue to explore all of this. Just remember, the future doesn't just happen to us, it's something we make together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll be back with us next time for another journey into the world of ideas shaping our world.